Welcome back. So today's topic is going to be a very tough topic to discuss because it is the following question. Should we separate artists from the art that they make? Because let me tell you, throughout history there have been so many great artists, and so many of those great artists have been very good people, but a minority have actually been an extremely awful group of people. And therefore, the question arises, should we separate the art that they make, which is great art, from the shitty behavior, from the shitty character? And so today I'll give you certain examples of authors that are great, that are famous, wildly famous, impossibly famous, so famous that their names are essentially, is technically like household names. I'm not sure if you have heard of this one, but this author, Lovecraft, H.P. Lovecraft, and technically Lovecraftian horror is something that I am really keenly fond of. I remember making a video back in the day, long time ago, when I reviewed Predator, some sort of a movie, and I talked about how H.P. Lovecraft demonstrates the fundamentals of, proper horror and how to write horror properly. And on top of that, he actually advanced horror and he created new genres of horror, which is called Lovecraftian horror. Okay, I'm sorry for using that particular term a lot, horror, but it is what it is. The man is so great that he created a subgenre within the horror genre, which is Lovecraftian horror, and that is something to be celebrated. But on top of that, like some of his classics, like The Shadow over Innsmouth, I could reread that every day and all day. However, there is no getting around it. H.P. Lovecraft was a very terrible individual. He was a freaking white supremacist, he was a racist, and he was a bigot all the way to the extreme. So much so that he wrote poems. He wrote poems degrading and insulting black people. And so let's look at some of those today. In a very good article, Wes House, the author, writes, making no efforts to conceal his bigoted theories, Lovecraft took to pen and publication with the most grotesque appraisals of those he deemed inferior. His letters overflow with anti-Semitic conspiracy theories of an underground jury beating the economic, social, and literary walls of New York City against the Iron Race. He warned of the Jew who must be muzzled because he insidiously degrades and orientalizes the robust iron civilization. His sympathies with the rising fascism were equally transparent. He wrote, Hitler's vision is romantic and immature, he stated after Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. I know he's a clown, but God, I like the boy. And and he even wrote a poem that shocked me, because I was going through his back in the day, like 2019. I was going through the list of his poems, because I thought he was a very good poet. And I came across this, and it's on the creation of niggers. He writes, when, long ago, the gods created earth in Jove's fair image, man was shaped at birth. The beasts for lesser parts were next designed. And here he's referring to black people, okay? He goes on, yet were they too remote from humankind. And humankind in here is just white people. To fill the gap and join the rest to man. And this is very interesting because throughout history, white supremacists have used a narrative of the uncivilized beast. And essentially, anyone that is not from their cultures, anyone who does not behave like them, if the world technically does not revolve around white people, the white supremacists will refer to you and they will describe you as a beast. And also because you are not like them, therefore you must be inferior. And they ought to be better than you because they were born that way. So that's some fascist nonsense for you. He goes on, the Olympian host conceived a clever plan. A beast they wrought in semi-human figure, filled it with vice, and called the thing a nigger. And so this, I remember, I remember looking at it and saying, is this H.P. Lovecraft? Is this the Lovecraft, that I've been reading for so many months now? Because I had really fallen in love with his writing. And then, boom, This was the poem that actually hit me right in the face. And it doesn't just end there. There are other authors like Dr. Seuss. He drew some of the most racist cartoons I've ever seen, expressing immense hatred for anyone who was not white. If you were black, if you were Arab, this guy really did not like you. If you were even Japanese, he didn't like you. Charles Dickens treated his wife terribly after he divorced her, for a younger woman. But remember, this woman was loyal to him for 10 years and they were in a very, very good relationship. And he was the one who tore down the house. She was the one who was keeping it together and he was the one who tore down the house. And, he didn't just stop after divorcing her. He essentially just he damaged and he defamed her character in the public image, in the public mind, and he essentially described her as someone who was unstable, unbalanced, a monster. But he was the real monster. He was the one who destroyed a house that was beautiful. And then there is like Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway was essentially, let's put it this way, that guy made a career out of being an asshole. A career out of being an asshole. So many great authors, so many assholes, but how do we deal with them? And so here is the question. Should we separate the art that they have created from these artists that I've mentioned? And this is just a small list. I don't want to make this video 10-hour long documentary on all the shitty things that authors have done throughout history. So let me tell you what I think. You can go down in the comments below and tell me actually what you think of this particular topic. Would you separate the art from the artist? And in my particular opinion, it's very simple. I always separate the art from the artist. And here is the reason why. When you look at H.P. Lovecraft, for example, he wrote some great horror. And if you are trying to write in the horror genre and you are interested in figuring out, how it works and how to deal with monsters, and you are trying to figure out the nuances of that genre, and you're trying to really just dig into its gears and cogs, you are going to find yourself reading H.P. Lovecraft. And if you deny yourself that art, you are denying yourself a great opportunity to learn. So, in terms of like the artist and the art, great art ought to be appreciated on its own, in my opinion, without any politics attached. Of course, like 1984 cannot be enjoyed without politics. So it depends on the work. If the work itself is exploring politics or if it isn't exploring politics. On top of that, so this can, great art itself can be very good learning opportunity for writers themselves. But on top of that, it can be great entertainment that can, essentially give someone a new perspective, right? That's what great art does. It gives you a new perspective on life. It gives you new things to think about. And it perfectly and beautifully explores a very complex human topic, a particular theme. So that is another thing. And that can really never be de-appreciated, or like you are always going to have to really appreciate that, in my opinion. And always I find myself appreciating a very well-written theme. And therefore, it is a great learning opportunity. It is beautiful art that has beautiful perspectives, specifically nuanced perspectives, right? And further to that point, the art itself can actually have huge impact. If it's great art, it can have huge impact on the progression of the genre, right? So for example, J.R. Tolkien writes The Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings is beautifully influential. The Wheel of Time, George R. R. Martin, Song of Ice and Fire. These authors I've mentioned, I don't know, they are not awful people as far as I know. So technically speaking, these are examples of great artists who have created great art, and that art went on to inspire entire generations of people and advance the genre in new ways. So great art itself can actually end up impacting people and giving people nuanced perspectives. It can impact the genre, and it can also be a huge opportunity to learn. This is why I have actually adopted this belief that we must separate the artist from the art. However, there are nuances here. There are clauses attached. Specifically, if supporting the art, because to appreciate great art means to support it, and to support that art can also mean 99% of the time supporting the artist, okay? And therefore, you are supporting someone awful. And here is where clauses come attached, okay? Opportunities to, improve as a person, as an individual. I will give the artist an opportunity to essentially improve and to learn. So for example, if H.P. Lovecraft today, boom, resurrected, he just essentially rose from the middle of Times Square, I would absolutely give him an opportunity to just change as a person and get better, even though his poems were attacking me directly, even though he was a white supremacist who really didn't like Jews and he was an anti-Semitic monster. These things stand as they are, but they can always be changed and the individual can always improve. This is something that I've always held to deeply and vehemently. I don't let go of this. I will judge everyone on this particular criteria. If the author does not change, that means I will stop supporting the art. Okay, even though it is great art, I will stop supporting the art. There is a next best thing, right? Which is essentially try to find a way. You can essentially take this however you like it, but you can try to find a way to get the art without having to buy it. The way I do it is essentially I try to find a way to get let's say the book without having to buy it. So for example, go to the library. 99% of the time, you just go to the library and they'll get you the book for free and you can read it without having to support the artist and so on and so forth with your own money, right? Of course, through the library, that still supports the artist in some minor way because now they don't get your money, right? You have essentially hit that hammer and you have cut all the profits that they can get from you to essentially minimal, right? And there are other ways. You ought to figure them out on your own. I have a whole laundry list of things that to do. If I want great art, but I don't want to support a terrible individual, I have a long list of things to do. I have a long list of places that I can go to get the art without having to pay the artist, right? And so you are supposed to sort of figure out your own thing, right? And this is where I stand on this discussion. I will always choose to separate the art from the artist with clauses attached. Essentially when it comes to supporting the artist. I hope that you enjoyed this. Please tell me down in the comments below, what is your take on this particular topic? Do you choose to, essentially sever or separate the artist from the art? Or do you combine them, meaning if an artist is awful, you don't check the art out, you don't give it a chance and so on and so forth, right? I hope that you enjoyed this. Have a nice day. Bye.